We'll now proceed and create a super stylized tree with very simple geometry and just using some cubes and stuff. So first of all, I will move the cursor in place where I want to create a tree. So shift right click here to place the cursor there. And now we'll press Shift A and add a single vertex. So go to the mesh options, single vert, and add single vert. If you don't see this option here, remember you have to enable extra objects add-on. I've talked about this in the introduction episode, so you can go check it out if you don't see it here. And now let's add a single vert. You might notice we are right now in the edit mode after adding a single vertex. So that happened automatically for us. But before you start extruding that vertex, remember you need to be in the vertex select mode. So let's switch to the vertex select mode here or press 1. And now we can go to the front view by pressing 1, press E, then Z and extrude a first part of the tree like this. And now we can start extruding these branches, but I want to distribute them kind of geometrically. In certain angles, so we can help ourselves by rotating the orthographic view. So first of all, let's press 6 on a numpad. You will notice that this will rotate our view in one step, but it switched to the perspective. So right now we can press 5 on a numpad to switch to the orthographic, but the angle will stay in place. And now let's just press 6 2 more times. So we are basically now looking from, I think, 30-degree angle. And we can start extruding our branch, and we'll use the shortcut Control right click that we used on the bridge as well. So let's just click right here. So Control right click here and here as well. Now select this vertex with the left mouse button and extrude one more time right here. So this will be our first branch, and we can continue rotating around our scene, and we can press 6 1 2 3 times. So we are looking from the side here, and 3 more, so something like this. And we can go to the local view so the rest of the scene doesn't get in the way. So let's press slash on the numpad to isolate this, and you can see this is the vertex from which we extruded the first branch. So let's select that one, and I want to extrude it up a little bit. So let's press E, then Z, and extrude it a tiny bit. And now we can Control right click here and extrude a similar shape like before. And we can now exit local view by pressing slash again and press 3 on a numpad. So we look from the side, we want one other branch right here. So let's select this vertex there. We can zoom in a little bit. Let's press E, Z, extrude it like this. And now we can extrude a similar shape like before. And now one more here. And we can now give it some volume. And I like to use skin modifier for that. So let's add a new modifier and let's add skin modifier. This doesn't look like much right now, but we can fix that right away. So let's tab in, press A to select all, and we can scale the radius of these vertices that the skin modifier takes into account by Control A. It's a little bit unintuitive shortcut, but you just need to get used to it. And let's press Control A and scale this down like that. Okay, and right now I want to select the bottom vertex and press Control A and scale it up like this. And since I want to use a subdivision modifier later and the bottom would be rounded, let me look from the front, and I want to extrude it down. So let's enable X-ray, press E, Z, and extrude it down into the ground like this. So we have some base there. Okay, toggle the X-ray back. And now we can check our model for some issues, because if you use skin modifier, sometimes you can have weird angles that would create holes and stuff like that. So you would need to fix that. And let's enable wireframe view so we better see the vertices. And I think here we might have that problem. So let's move this down and you will see how this gets reorganized. Sometimes all you need to do is to just move some of these vertices more apart, so the new geometry is created there. And we can see we have some hole here, so we can push this up a tiny bit, this down, maybe move the angle. So sometimes only thing you can do here is to just try to fix these issues by moving the geometry around basically. Okay, I think this would work. Maybe we can move this down a little bit so it has a more breathing space there. And it really depends on the radius as well. So you need to kind of balance those two things out. And now if we tap out, we can press Ctrl 2 to enable that subdivision modifier with 2 levels of subdivision. And here you can see those issues much better. And one thing you can do is make the radius on these joints a little bit smaller. So let's enable X-ray. Going to the edit mode, we can still edit these vertices alone. And let's scale these down. And remember, we are doing this with Ctrl A, and you can see how some of these issues get fixed right away. Okay, I think this works, so let's toggle the X-ray again. No issues there, no holes, nothing like that. So this is not strictly geometrical, but there is a little bit of that geometric layout there with the angles of these branches. So I really like how this looks, and right now we can just enable smooth shading here on the skin modifier. You can just click and enable shade smooth. You need to do this in the skin modifier, and this is our base for the tree. And right now we can continue with the crown, and that'll be really easy to do. We'll just use some cubes with bevels. So let's shift right click here, press Shift A and add the cube there, and we can press S and scale it down and apply the scale so we don't have any issues later. So press Ctrl A and apply scale. And right now we can go to the modifiers tab and add a bevel modifier, and I want to do 3 segments again with 0.1. That's okay. And basically we're done with it. We just need to enable harden normals, go into the object data properties, enable that auto smooth, and enable smooth shading. So this will serve as our cube for the tree, and now we can rotate this into place. So let's just press R and match the angle with the branch with multiple sides. And now the only thing left to do is to duplicate this cube all over the tree to create that nice stylized look. And we can start with these endpoints and see where that gets us. So right now, shift right click here, press Alt D, hold Shift S and selection to cursor. That will snap it there. And we can press R twice to enable trackball rotation, so it's a little bit easier to position this. And I will do the same here. So Alt D, Shift S, selection to cursor, R twice and rotate. Sometimes when they are too close together, you can scale it up like this. Doesn't really matter too much. And we can place one here as well. Okay, this looks fine so far. Maybe we can play with the scale a little bit here and there. And now what I want to do is to finish up with just free floating cubes. So it doesn't really matter that they don't have branches. It will just round up the composition a little bit better. So we can see here is the empty space, so we can move some cube there. So remember, we are duplicating with Alt D, so we are creating linked duplicates. So these are all linked together. They will share the geometry, they will share the materials. And now I want to do one more here. And you know, this is not an exact thing to do. Sometimes you just need to go by the gut, by the feeling, what feels good what looks great composition wise. So it really is up to you how you place these. And maybe one more down here. Okay, I think this looks quite all right. I really like this. So one last thing to do is just to drag selection around those. Be careful that you don't hit any other objects, and shift click the branches here, Control P and parent, so you can move the entire tree at once. And not only that, it's really easy to select it. If you have the branches selected, you can press Shift right bracket on the keyboard, and that will select all the children objects of the tree as well. But first, let's click this and name this tree. And now Shift right bracket, and I want to have another one here in the scene. So Alt D. So remember, this will be linked to. And now press Y and move it here in the place. Let's press G and Shift Z to better position this somewhere here. And now we can play with the scale. I think I want this one a little bit larger and this one as well. So just compare your scene to mine here and try to match these proportions, these scales, and maybe move this a little bit to the side. Okay, so these are the trees. And one last thing, I think these bells are a little bit too much. So let's select one of these and let's modify the amount. You can just click and drag here, and remember you can hold Shift for some fine-tuned adjustment. So I want to make this smaller, like this, maybe 0.07 or something. But you can see if you modify the modifier values, it doesn't get updated on the link duplicates, even though if you go into the edit mode, you can see these are all linked, but the modifier isn't. So there are two things to fix this. Either you can do this on one of those and then just select the rest like this with Shift and Control drag here to deselect the branches. We don't need those. And with this one as an active object, you can see that yellow outline. You can press Control L and link modifiers that will update them all. Or there's another option. Let me go back. Okay, like this. So another option would be select them right out like this. Control deselect that. And with this one active, you can modify the amount. But first you hold Alt and then try to modify this, and you will see when you hold Alt you are modifying all of those at once. So that's pretty neat trick when you sometimes need to modify multiple modifiers. Remember, if you have more objects selected, you can adjust the values by holding Alt, and that applies to the checkboxes as well. So yeah, just a quick tip for the road. And these are the trees for you right here, and we can move on to the next part.